Our presentation is on tapping therapy for post-traumatic stress disorder, which is also known as PTSD.
By Christina Panzano.
And my name is Juhi Surti, and here's our presentation. So the main approach that we found in the research studies that we researched were that they were claiming EFT tapping therapy to be an effective method. Majority of the approaches were scientific. For the plausibility, the mechanism of action did not correlate with our current scientific understandings of the human body. Therefore, we suggest that it is implausible. And for the effectiveness, there were a mixture of reports claiming it works and it doesn't. Most of these could be justified through the power of the placebo effect.
So, a little background on what tapping therapy is. It is a treatment that is supposed to help with emotional troubles. According to Gary Craig, the developer, a disruption in energy is the root cause of all negative emotions. Tapping therapies believe that tapping the body can create a balance in your energy system and treat pain. Tapping your head and face in a particular sequence is the most common way that tapping therapy is done. Anxiety and PTSD patients sometimes go to tapping therapy to help them. How does EFT tapping work? EFT tapping focuses on the meridian points. These are called the energy hotspots, and this is being proven to restore balance to the body's energy. Based on Chinese medicine, these points are areas where body energy flows through. If the energy is balanced, it is supposed to mean that the person is healthy and happy. If the energy is unbalanced, it means that the person is sick or not in a good mental state. EFT utilizes fingertip tapping to apply pressure. Here's a video to demonstrate what tapping therapy is.
Welcome to the TappingSolution.com. I am Jessica Ortner, author of the New York Times bestseller, The Tapping Solution for Weight Loss and Body Confidence. And in this short video, I am going to introduce you to the tapping points. Just by learning these 9 points, you can start your journey to relieve stress. Many of these points you may already intuitively use. A lot of times when we're feeling anxious or stressed, we go like this. We put our hand on our chest. Now we're using these points in a very conscious manner. So the very first point that you need to learn is the side of the hand. And it doesn't matter what side of the body you tap on. This point is called the karate chop point. You got it. And tap along with me so you can get comfortable with these points. The next point is the eyebrow point. And this is where the hair begins on your eyebrow, right on that bone. There you go. You got it.
Okay, so in this video, you can see that the woman was encouraging tapping points and she introduces it to us as points that we already know. And later on in the video, she goes to elaborate how they will relieve you of your stress instantaneously.
What is PTSD? This occurs in people who experience severe trauma during a specific event that happened in their life. People with this disease have repetitive negative thoughts and feelings related to the trauma. These feelings last long after the disturbing event has ended. People with this disease may relive the event in various ways, like flashbacks, nightmares, nervousness, anxiety around certain people and environments. PTSD victims tend to avoid people or situations that remind them of this disturbing event.
Okay, so our first resource for proving that EFT may be pseudoscience is a book that I found, it's called EFT Through the Chakras, and it's written by Michael Hetherington, who is known to be a doctor, a yoga enthusiast for like over many years. And I chose this one because, as you can see from reading the back of the page, you see a lot of claims talking about reducing emotional anxiety and emotional turbulence in a few minutes, clear and reduce muscular pain instantly and dramatically. It also says that you can treat and heal yourself or use it to treat and heal others. And also the beginning sentence says that muscles are governed by and the emotions directly influenced by each of those chakras. So in this research, you see a lot of empty language. You see an avoidance of scientific tests. There's nothing telling you that this test proved that it will reduce your pain, improve your digestion. There's many leaps of logic that are present. And it's also saying if you want to learn more about EFT and to work work it in with the chakras in a very easy manner within an hour or two, this is the book for you. So you see promising the impossible, stagnation, because EFT is based on Chinese medicine, which means that it's an ancient healing therapy, and what makes us believe that they knew more back then than we do now. And then, and most importantly, this entire book is an appeal to authority. So all of these things prove that it may be a scientific study. Well, they suggest that it may be a scientific study. It hasn't been scientifically proven that EFT affects an individual's energy points, and neither do the chakras match up with what our scientific understanding is.
Okay, so guidelines for the treatment of PTSD using clinical EFT. So I looked at a study. The participants were of all ages, male or female, from different backgrounds. And 7 randomized control trials were performed following the clinical guidelines for treating PTSD with emotional freedom technique. It was claimed to have a greater treatment effect when compared to control groups who received standard care. The main outcome results were it needed a minimum of 4 to 10 sessions, and in addition, EFT was found to be more effective when combined with family support and other resources.
In this study from Dawson Church, they did a double-blind randomized control trial that was intended to see if symptoms improved in veterans using the emotional freedom technique. So the participants that they utilized were veterans that received mental health services who also met the clinical standard for the condition. And this is a very important point because in this study that Christina just explained before this one, they also said the same, and that it's whatever the clinical standard is. Researchers analyzed the impact by comparing EFT tapping on veterans with PTSD versus veterans who receive standard care. This is the point that they also include in the study before. Standard care was defined as the customary way that the healthcare system is known to take care of their patients, which is a very important point because it helps us understand the interpretations of the results more as to what type of care they are referring to and how qualitative it is. So in the results of the study, they claimed that veterans who received hours of EFT tapping coaching saw a significant decrease in severity of PTSD symptoms and their levels of psychological distress. So for the 6 tests of science, all these resources, well, the 2 resources the studies that we just explained, they are falsifiable because individuals from both of the studies were from different backgrounds that did drop out. This gives it like a bend to, can it be like redone or not? There is logic. I mean, there is not logic because there are many leaps of logic in the claims of how this technique can actually help them. For comprehensiveness, there were experimental designs utilized. Limitations were discussed in the study, which is a very good point, and it makes it more believing, along with various populations that were sampled. The results did show a divide in both studies that improved and those did not. They also did report that they had dropouts, which is them being honest, but there also could be like a confirmation bias within that because they did not interview the people who dropped out. They only took the results from the people who believe that they gained from the EFT tapping. For replicability, there are enough details in methods and sections to replicate. The results did correlate with the previous studies. And for sufficiency, there is enough information for it to be sufficient. It matched the results of other previous studies mentioned in the references.
Conclusions on scientific evidence. Does it work? So these were kind of low quality studies and they had many limitations. The coaching sessions cannot be really analyzed and there were participant dropouts. If sessions did not work, intensive psychotherapy and psychopharmacology was recommended for non-responsive patients. So in the end, I mean, some people still claim that it does work, but there's really no scientific proof that it actually does work. So it might just be their minds telling them that it's working when it's actually something else.
Okay, so for the effectiveness, we did deem that it is unclear because we had to question if it worked, how efficient is EFT tapping if it works, and also if there are dropout rates from both studies, how efficient is this method actually? And we have to remember that EFT is an alternative to acupuncture, which focuses on those same meridian points that are not scientifically proven yet. They don't correlate to our scientific understanding of the human body and how we store energy. So the mind and body practices can improve the quality of life, as seen in the first book, that how it promotes everything, saying improving digestion, like, yoga and meditation does improve the quality of life, but nobody can actually say that it physically cures a medical condition such as PTSD. So to say that EFT tapping cures PTSD cannot be too effective, because most of them are based off of Chinese medicine techniques, which is used to treat traumatic medical disorders. And we've seen a mixed range of results throughout the resources that we researched. Therefore, the effectiveness is unclear since not all clinical trials explain the scientific evidence of the treatment and or the intervention. Both scientific studies compared their trials to a standard of care, and they're utilizing a technique that dates back 500 years. And I believe that this utilizes the curse of stagnation because, again, who are we to say that this technique is like, who are we to say that the ancient people knew more than what we know now? So, plausibility. How does it supposedly work? I included a quote here from untrapped.com, The Truth About Tapping, and it was a skepticism website. And in it, they said that Callahan discovered the technique by accident during a session with a phobic client. Inspired by an acupuncture class he was taking, he asked the client to tap underneath her eyes, and apparently her phobia was instantly miraculously cured. This was a very interesting one because, one, it said instantly miraculously cleared. It obviously had empty language present. And also, they say that EFT tapping works through energy fields, aka meridians, and they're unblocked through tapping therapy, and this is claimed to be the root of psychological problems. So I really wanted to focus in on energy fields and what they're supposed to do. And they say that energy fields are supposed to balance the energy flow inside one's body and help treat pain. Believers of this refer to it as chakras.
So how does this explanation correspond with scientific knowledge? The existence behind chakras and energy fields does not correspond to the scientific understanding of how humans store and use energy. This entire technique is based off of energy fields, which do not have enough scientific evidence on how they fix physical or emotional problems. So this plays the power of the placebo effect. Like I kind of explained before, there's no scientific proof that that these energy fields are corresponding to why these physical and emotional problems are being fixed from this. So there's really no proof. It's more about, I think maybe mentally they might be feeling like it did help them, but there's no scientific proof that that's why they are better. The conclusion is based on current scientific measurement and knowledge, tapping therapy for PTSD lacks plausibility.
So as we can see that there is not enough credibility of this technique for us to believe that it works. Therefore, our approach that we are going to conclude with is that there's a mixed approach, but largely pseudoscientific. The plausibility seems a lot like superficial fluff, which is present in most of these findings. Tapping therapy is based off of Chinese medicine, where there's a lack of scientific understanding that backs it up, which is a very important point because if it does not correspond or correlate to like the 2020 scientific understanding that we have of our human body, then what are these bloggers, doctors, anyone else reporting on? And the last question is, does it work? Since the effectiveness of this technique is unclear after extensive research, we believe it could be the power of the placebo effect.
And these are our references.
Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.